Welcome back, folks. This is our moment in history. But first, do you know who that influential American was who was born on a Virginia plantation near Port Conway, Virginia, served as the fourth president of the United States, and was called the father of the Constitution? Maury?
James Madison.
Absolutely.
One thing people might forget is that he was the president during the War of 1812, and he saved, when they tried to burn down, they did burn down the White House, but he saved Washington as a capital for the United States.
Have you ever been to Charlottesville, Virginia?
Sure.
That's the home of James Madison, Monroe, Jefferson. We spent a couple weeks back there a couple years ago, and it was just, the history is just dripping. It's unbelievable.
It is. That's where it was made. 3 million people at the time.
Okay, our moment in history. Who's the man, there's a lot of people that would debate this, who's the man that you believe was most influential in ending the Cold War?
Mikhail Gorbachev, the first human head of the Communist Party. When I say human, the guy was a decent guy. He's traveled all over the world now. He still lives in Russia, but he's back and forth in the United States. I actually met the man. And
Really?
Yes. And Reagan, they almost signed off on an anti-nuclear deal in Reykjavik, Iceland, and it didn't work. But here's what happened. The last one of these animalistic heads of the Communist Party that they had was Brezhnev, who was a mean guy. Well, he died, and he was succeeded by two other guys who died within a period of about a year. One was named Andropov, and the other one was Chernenko. And the third
They
guy...
were chess players.
It could have been. Then came Mikhail Gorbachev, and he started saying, wait a second, between the satellites and the republics that make up the Soviet Union, we're bankrupt. We haven't developed anything at all. We can't go on like this. We've got to do something to reorganize. So they developed this federation, a Russian Federation, which was strictly the old Russia, and then they gave republic status to Kazakhstan and Tajikistan and countries like that. And at the same time, they literally walked away from the Baltics and also from Poland. And a lot of people say, well, the Pope came over there. That had very little to do with it. The fact is,
East Germany?
East Germany overnight, practically. They talk about the wall coming down. By the time they took down the wall, the Russians weren't around anymore. So the thing is, he thought that somehow if Russia would become more democratic, and they had a Duma, which was their parliament, and for about 10 years they had a guy in there who was a drunk. Russia practically fell apart during the last decade of the 1900s until Putin came along. And Putin, of course, has been desperately trying to reconstitute the
old Soviet Union.
It'll never happen, but he's trying to.
He said the breakup of the Soviet Union was one of the worst geopolitical circumstances
the worst,
of the 20th century.
Not one, the worst, because from his standpoint, he was right, and he's got an 80% approval rating of Russia. He is to Russia what Hitler was to Germany.
Oh, that's almost like Iran doesn't have homosexuals. It's the same thing. You don't agree with Putin, and all of a sudden you're not around anymore.
No, but the point is Russians have great nationalistic pride, and that Putin, to them, when he takes back the Crimea, which never should have been given to the reason the Ukrainians had the Crimea is because Khrushchev was a Ukrainian, and he gave it to them as a birthday present, I guess, because in those days it didn't make any difference. You had one big Soviet Union.
But there's also a very strategic port.
Sebastopol.
Exactly. So that plays into this as well.
Oh, well, sure.
Because it's one of the only warm waters that the Russians have access to.
Well, let's put it this way. That's where they had to pay off Ukraine to run that port. And then, of course, Turkey would allow them to go through the Dardanelles and the Sea of Marmara. You're right. But the Crimea was always Russian. So giving it to Ukraine, of course, the way they took it back was not very nice. I mean, they just grabbed it. But that's the way Putin does business. That's why I say, keep your eye on Putin in relation to this oil situation. He's not going to let the Russians go down the drain because of the oil.
What does he do? Does he go and invade another country, start up another little skirmish over there? What's he do?
It would only be conjecture. I think it's going to be a combined Russian-Iranian pressure on Saudi Arabia to start cutting back. If the Saudis cut back 2 million, maybe 3 million, let's say 3 million barrels a day, they could do that. Price of oil would go up $20 overnight. That's all. The Saudis are the ones that made this happen. It never has happened before. Usually when it goes down over a period of time. This time it went down. First 8 months of last year, the price of oil was somewhere around $100. Then suddenly, in almost no time at all, it went down to 90 to 80, 70. It happened in the last quarter.
Right. It's been very quick. That wraps up another edition of the World Report television program. If you want to see the show again, catch a segment that you missed, the easiest and simplest way, just go to our website, theworldreport.org. For Maury Beschloss, all those exceptional folks in the United States Armed Forces, firefighters, and the police of the United States who go to work each and every day to help keep us safe in a chaotic world, I'm Scott Crowfoot, and God willing, we'll see each other next time.